Hello everyone, Aiko here. This video is going to show you how I approach fusing 5/5s, how I clone traits, and what mistakes to avoid while fusing. Clone this. Crack shot. Our main key is to pass on that crack shot when we're cloning traits, because this is a really hard trait to come by, where GP3 and Moonlight Assault can be easily regained. Okay guys, we're going to use a clean wolf with the Mr. Wish. And then when you're duping traits, guys, what you need to make it more consistent is clean deviants. Preferably ones with 0 fusions while you're cloning. Alright? Now if you look at the general combat and deviated traits, they're at 50%. And yes, if you had a let's say for example you had a clone like this, a filter, you can make those 100%. But most likely you're not gonna just be doing that, right? So the way I clone traits, and most people, we fuse them like so. Clean deviants, no traits on them, and preferably with no fusion chance, so you can get more out of doing this. Now this is gonna go probably into the wolf. There's 20% that it could turn into a Mr. Wish, but the odds are stacked against it, but there's still like a 60% chance that it will. There could be a chance it will fill. It's not 100% unless I use another dog. But for this example, we're cloning GP3, Crackshot, and Moonlight Assault. So let's get started. Now guys, this is 80%. This is the most you can get in the middle, because the parent deviant would not count to increase the odds. So you get 10% per clean deviant you put in. And you're really just, when cloning, you're really risking the one. Alright guys, let's see if that cloning worked. Alright. We got a wolf back. We got all 3 traits back. And that was at 80% fusion chance. You do it. Alright, let's dig into in case this crack shot would have failed. Alright, on that cloning process. So I will try to revive it by putting 2 combat deviants in. And one of the options you could have done, if you, let's say you had only 1 successful cloning, or maybe just none, better yet, you would have been better off, and like most likely you could probably get through having 3. But let's say we only have 1 successful cloning, right, of that crack shot. Now you can always restart the crack shot via throwing 2 clones in, which is the best option, because you're gonna have a 100% for sure chance of getting the traits back, where the, say, 100% chance you're gonna get those traits back. And this is the safest way to bring back a cloning. But let's say you wasn't fortunate enough to have 3 successful runs in it and whatnot. You only had 1 successful cloning of it. Now there is a risk in this one involving that you're risking your only filter, right? So it'll be the same concept of cloning like the first time, but now you're cloning it at 70%. Was this is pretty risky, right? So that's one option if you had no other options of duping. And this is going to be all RNG at this point, which in my head I think it's kind of worth to pull a risk like this, but maybe you won't. So we're going to fuse it anyways to see how that goes. See you guys in 10 minutes. Alright, let's check if we were successful. We were not successful, but we did get a 5-4 out of it. So, I mean, sometimes that's the risk of trying to bring back the trait of a deviant. It's a simple risk that could either pan out for you, or, in this case, not. You know, and that's part of the gamble when you're doing this type of stuff. That's part of the gamble. Now, we're gonna bring that trait back alive. And I'm gonna show you how we do that as well. You know, sometimes doing the 70%, I have never been successful in doing the 70%, but sometimes others are. Like, there's no big deal about that. It happens. And all you can do is either, you know, ask your world check to see if you can buy one from another, where you're back to farming the dog or your mushroom farm, or however way you have gotten that crack shot, or the PK kid. PK kid's a little bit easier to farm. You know, send an alt to the SCP server and do the side tasks, and you will get a PK kid back. But that was a little bit disappointing, but we're gonna bring it back alive. Let me just figure out what I'm gonna use and take the opportunity to bring it back alive. Now, so we obviously didn't fill the first fusion, but we did fill doing it the duping way that way. And then your second option would have been obviously doubling down with it with the clone of wherever you're cloning with your prior filter would have been the better option. But we can bring it alive like this. We could even up tier to make sure it turns into the wolf. Now in this, we don't want to make the mini fister, so we can kinda influence that. Well, I wouldn't say bring it back. This would be more like, let's say you wanna, those would be more like trying to up tier this 4-3 wolf with the traits we had, and let's say we had a filter from that, and then you were just gonna keep up tiering it until it's 5-5 via doing this. You take a deviant that's 5-4 or 4-5, or you know 3-5 over your 4-3, and your goal is to make it a 5-5, you're going to keep using the opposite level you have gotten to pull that up. Alright, let's see if we're successful in tearing the deviant up. Alright, it's 4-5, all 3 traits. Just once you get the clone and the template. So right now it's a 5-4. One of the best ways to do it is using either a 5-5 or another 4-5 on the opposite side of the parent to try to tear it up. Now, this can take your first attempt or your first 20 attempt. And as long as you have the active fusion one and the template of the wolf, you can keep doing it over and over again. It's just a matter of time that it will eventually tear itself up to a 5-5. But I wouldn't use, like, if you had a 5-4 and let's say you had that second number as a 5, I wouldn't use a 3-5 to try tearing up a 5-4 with a 3-5, or the opposite if you have 4-5 with a 5-3, because it seems like the lower you get on the number scale, the more likelihood that it's going to turn into, like, it wouldn't tear up, it will tear down into a 4-4, or maybe the opposite where you didn't want to get the 3-5. So that could be the case. So we're going to use the wolf, the Mr. Teddy. That's a 4-5. It has tear up 2, so we do have to defeat the tear up 2 and kind of ensure that it goes in correctly. So we're going to take our duplication, our little template, our filter, whatever you would like to call it. If I can find it. Why is it gone? Hello? There it is. We're going to use 1 from there. See how we got the crack shot 100%. Moonlight Assault at 100%, but now we have the GP3 at 66. I would not stop here to trying to raise that GP3 up. And put another deviant with GP3 somewhere. There we go. Now I feel a little bit more confident about that GP3 sticking, but it has a 27% chance of failing. But I feel a little bit more confident keeping that GP3. Now, you could do this with a territory deviant, even if it's rubbish. Like, you could do that with, like a mushroom, if you have a mushroom farm. Because even if it has, like, a territory trait, it can't be passed along to a combat deviant. Right now, we are using 2 combat deviants, which is the best option. because in case, let's say, it fails off of 3 woofs at that 75 marker, you will still ensure yourself getting the crack shot and moonlight assault to continue. Now, I had it fail where I use a territory deviant as the secondary parent, even at like the highest it would be at like at 80%, but most likely this will be successful. So let's get started. Finally, it's finished. Alright, let's see if it's tiered up. Alright, we got the woof, we got the traits. It's a 4 or 5. But now we have the duplicate right there. Basically all you're gonna keep doing is you're gonna keep throwing it back in. But this time we're gonna throw it back in with a 5-4 instead of a 4-5. Cross our fingers, hope to die, wherever the case may be. Hope it comes out as a 5-5, and this is all you're doing now. There we go, the 72% again. But now this time we're using a territory deviant. See how lazy bones doesn't affect the woof, but we got the woof at 75%, increasing those odds of getting this deviant back. Now this is a bit risky doing this because it's still 25% where it could drop. It could be successful, but you could have ended up with a Digby Void at that 25%. So it's a bit risky. We got the crack shot at 100%. We got 3 woofs on it. And this could still fail, but let's go for it. Alright guys, let's go check out this. Alright, this is the... Let's see if it tiered up or if it failed. It's a 5-5. We had success. Successful run making this into a 5-5. That's amazing. A little bonus round, guys, for fusing Chaos Deviants. Both parents don't need to be the same. What I found successful is fusing 2 5-5 parents. They could be any kind. They just need to be 5-5 for fusing the Chaos Deviants. Okay. Notice how we have both 5-5s, crack shot, blah blah blah. Alright, we're gonna throw in the Mr. Wish mutagens in. And now we have it at 100% for the Chaos. Both parents are at 5.3. Yes, you could probably get away with 1. But who wants to risk the 71%? It could still fail. You could probably get away with 2 at 83. But the Mr. Wish is not that hard. And in my opinion, if you're going to use 2 5-5 parents, you might as well just throw 3 Chaos Mutagens in. And now we're going to have the filter for the crack shot and moonlight assault be at 100%. And yeah, this is all ready to fuse. Now, some tips. If you have the mutagens count as a 3rd parent, right? As we can see here, the mutagen count as a 3rd parent. You do not want to throw like a similar deviant in as a filter if it has the crack shot and stuff. So you want to try cloning it, having a clone that does not have the same filter, and the chaos fusing, just in case. You do not want these two to be that high. Out of, I think me and my hive combined, out of 24 fusions, we had one fail. Knock on wood. But enough talk. Let's do it. Alright, there you guys go. Mr. Wish, 5/5, all 3 traits. Works like a charm. Like a lucky charm. That's it for this guide. Like and subscribe if it helps. I stream live on Twitch. Links right below. If I miss anything, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to answer. You guys have a wonderful day. See you next time.